Learn a little bit more about your son and about your story and about what you see from your vantage point. I will say that I think many of us heard when John Polin a couple of months ago made a comment about how offensive it is to many of the hostage families when people wear yellow ribbons around as a sign of solidarity and then do not stand with the hostage families when they are calling for an immediate end to war and hostage deals so that their loved ones can come home. I know many people were upset when they heard that, and I think it's okay to be upset when we hear people saying things that make us uncomfortable but that speak a deeper truth. I don't imagine that everybody in our community stands in exactly the same place on all of these issues. I think it is imperative that we hear from you, that we learn from you, and also that we get a chance to ask you questions and to engage you. So we will do so with great respect and with love in our hearts, and we thank you so much for taking the time to come here. I know that every time you speak must be an additional heartache for you. To just need to do this right now is unthinkable and unimaginable. And so we're here to hear you and then to engage you in conversation. And then we'll go have our rest of our Shabbat afternoon. So thank you, Yehuda Cohen, for being with us.
Thank you for taking the time and listening. So I'm Yehuda Cohen. I must say I'm not heading any organization. I'm a private man who is on the mission for releasing my son, Nimrod Cohen. This is my mission, and I'll say it now. I'm not saying bring them home. I'm not saying bring my son home. I'm saying I want my son released. Meaning that I'm not doing it for me. I'm not doing it for my wife, Nimrod's mother, or my other children. I'm doing it for them, but first of all, I'm doing it for Nimrod. I want him free, and I always say, it's not to bring them home, it's to release him, and I don't care that he from Gaza will go straight to any other country of the world by his choice, because it's for him. It's not for me to have the photo opportunity to meet with him outside the Gaza gate. Okay, it's not for me, it's for him. So that's why I'm saying, first of all, I'm representing only my son, not any other movement. And second, the goal is the person itself. In this case, my son, still alive, 20 months today, in Gaza, struggling, holding on, so the day will come where he will be released. So the story of Nimrod. So Nimrod, now 21, when he was 19, he joined the army, a basic responsibility every Israeli citizen does. Joined the army to a meaningful unit, armored corps, tanks. Actually, was following my older son, Yotam, which is here with me, here in California, here in Los Angeles, speaking to another synagogue. And followed him and went to the armored crop. I hope I'm saying the word right. Anyway, tanks. So after 2 months being in his unit, he was only 10 months in the army, 4 months basic training, 4 months more professional training, and then to his unit, straight to defending the border against Gaza. 7th of October, 6:30, they were on morning alert. When missiles were launching, they got the order to proceed towards the border, where reports were saying Hamas is invading. So to avoid this, the invading of Hamas terrorists, they were rushing with their tank to the border. They pretty much were outnumbered. They didn't expect this amount of terrorists. They have trouble with their tank too, but this is a different story. That's what they were equipped with. Hamas terrorists neutralized the tank with sticking a bomb in the driver engine area, neutralizing the engine, critically wounding or even killing the driver himself. Then Hamas terrorists were kind of driving smoke into the tank, forcing the rest of the team out from the top entrance. Got 3 of the tank members out. The commander, Omer Nautra, I think you're familiar with the name, American citizen. His parents lived in Long Island, New York. They actually executed 2 of the tank members, Omer Nautra and another member, Oz Daniel, and took my son, Nimrod, alive into Gaza. From my perspective, during this day, morning we woke up 6:30 with the alarms. I live in Rehovot. It's a city near Tel Aviv, so pretty much in the center. And it's pretty much rare to have sirens. So, okay, sirens, we went down to our shelter once, twice, third time. My oldest son, Yotam, was with us. He was then in the army. He was serving as an officer, but he was on vacation. He got the idea that something is more serious happening, asking me to try to start driving him towards his unit. They were in the north. So I was driving him, so I was busy driving him. Around 9 o'clock, okay, let's see what's going on with Nimrod. I sent him a WhatsApp message, no answer. You know, your first, fourth thought is, okay, he's fighting, so he has no time to answer his father right now. But then a long time we heard that Hamas invaded villages in Israel, and Hamas was starting to release videos to amplify their heinous doings. So I got home, tried to look at the regular media, nothing important going there. At about noon, I went just to YouTube, just wrote Hamas attack. Second video I saw a tank going up in smoke. Could be his tank, could be not, I don't know. Looking forward, then you see one of the soldiers being forced out from the top of the tank. That was Oz Daniel. Didn't know him then. Then camera moving leftward, and some soldier was leaning forward, defocused. Looked like my son, I wasn't sure. And then a cut off to the ground, and then I clearly saw my son being dragged from his shoulder out. So this is what I saw on the 7th of October in my house, on my computer, at noon. That's how I knew my son was taken. Of course, it took about a day and a half till I got the delegation from the army. Sunday midnight, they came with the official announcement that Nimrod was taken, probably alive. That's what they knew at that time. And then, okay, going along this 20 months, at the first deal, in November 23, hostages were released. So some of them saw Nimrod there, alive and well. So that was the first sign of life we got on him. He's alive, and he's not injured. Along the time between the 2 deals, November 23 until January 25, we got from Army intelligence what they call sign of life. That's what they call it, with no details, attached to a date only. Didn't want to expose intelligence sources. Until the second deal, which called the first deal, meaning January 25, 2 of the hostages who were released were with him the last 8 months, which is obvious that they saw him there, he's alive. We know he's alive. To put it more accurate, Hamas has a bigger interest to keep hostages alive than Netanyahu's government. And I always say this, the reasons are very simple. Netanyahu wants to get them for free, cheaper. I mean, living hostages are being released in return of more than 100 Palestinian terrorists. Deceased are being released for 10 deceased Palestinian terrorists. So it's cheaper. They don't talk, meaning they don't, after the return, they don't come back and tell what horrors they went through, and they are not ratting on other living hostages. I'm saying it cynically, but they are not saying there are more living hostages. So that's fine. So we can say, or Netanyahu can say, like his Minister for Strategic, Mr. Dermer, who was trying to tell the Trump's people back in November, oh, they're all dead, no, we need to hurry. And they are not seen, meaning they're not, you don't see how they come out, like we saw Sharabi, Ben-Ami going out like Holocaust survivors. So it's more convenient to Netanyahu, to Netanyahu's government. But Hamas wants them alive because they are their life insurance, and they are ransom to get Palestinian terrorists being released to secure their survival. So this is the situation. So I turned up from the personal story to the situation we're in, or the position as we see it. And the position as we see it is that Netanyahu's government does not want to end the war, does not want to pay the price of ending the war to get hostages released, does not want to pay the price of, well, let's say it in other words. For some members of the government, the 7th of October attack was a chance. And they were saying it pretty much out loud. Forget about the 1,200 murdered, forget about 250 then. Citizens and soldiers who were kidnapped, forget about the burning, raping, and all the suffrage civilians had to go through. Now it's a chance. Now we can go back to Gaza, reconquer it, and build settlements. And this is the situation. Extremists in our government, mainly parties of Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, they actually threatening out loud Netanyahu that if he will end the war and instruct the army to withdraw from Gaza, they will break his government. And he will lose his position as prime minister. And we all know the background of Netanyahu. He's deep in criminal trials. He's deep under investigation. He's deep into being blamed of running a policy of strengthening Hamas until the 7th of October, letting money in cash go in, running a policy of quietening or containing Hamas, buying quiet, running the policy of to avoid pressure on negotiation of the two-state solution. Let's keep the Palestinians split, the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, Hamas in Gaza, and then he can always say we cannot go for negotiation of two-state solution because they are split. So what can we do? Or in other words, it doesn't matter if the two-state solution is the right thing or not. That's not the issue. That's not what I'm here for. It doesn't matter if it's wrong or not. It's the way you do it. To build the monster, build a terrorist organization in your backyard, on the border, to avoid something else, this is not the way. So to avoid any investigations, any question, any criticism on him, let's go and continue the war, brute force, let soldiers die. We just heard 2 days ago, another 4 soldiers died in Gaza, were killed in Gaza, as long as he is in position. So what's the action we want? The action we want is pretty much simple. We want to end the war and get a hostage deal. Of course, this is the only way all the hostages will be released. Again, going back to my son Nimrod, young, soldier, healthy, he will be the last of the living one to be released. So yeah, from the interest of my son Nimrod, the only way he will be released, and that's the obligation of my government, is to end the war. Beyond the fact that we want, as an Israeli society, to end the war, polls shows in Israel between 70% and 80% of the Israeli population wants to end the war and get a hostage deal. Now, the thing is, end the war, get a hostage deal. The only one who can do it, fortunately, is Netanyahu. He's holding all the power. And he doesn't want to do it. I explained it just now. Political interest, personal interest. So the only way we can make him do it is from outside forces. Outside forces are foreign governments, international organization. Now, currently the situation is that Europe doesn't have big influence on Netanyahu. I'm talking about cosmopolitic things. Father of a hostage, but this is a situation I'm gone into. International organization like the UN or even the ICC doesn't have a lot of influence on Netanyahu. The only government, the only administration that has influence on Netanyahu, yes, it's the American government, it's the Trump administration. This is what we have, and this is what we're trying to get, to amplify any voice that can speak about the need of the American administration for the good of Israel, for the good of the Israeli nation, for the good of the Israeli state, to pressure and force Netanyahu to stop the war. Only Trump can do it. We are saying it out loud. We are thanking, we are cheering Trump for doing that. He started with the deal in January. For some reason, he stopped the pressure, let Netanyahu go back to war. We are asking Trump administration go back and pressure Netanyahu to end the war and get a hostage deal. I know this is a more liberal community, less connected to the Trump administration, but still, I know. But still, you're American citizen. We, and Israelis, I am an Israeli, can only ask for. You, as an American citizen, have more right to demand. That's what we are asking. This is the story in short. One word about the yellow ribbon. You see, I'm not wearing the yellow ribbon. The main reason I'm not wearing this yellow ribbon, I think today it became a symbol for hypocrisy. I mean, Netanyahu is wearing that ribbon, and Netanyahu is the only one who's keeping them there. So I'm less for symbols, I'm more to action. And as I said, the action is to advocate for ending the war and getting a hostage deal and putting that as pressure from every angle, every direction possible on Netanyahu's government. I can't even call it my government. I'm ashamed of this government. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We're going to have a couple minutes for questions, and I do want to say, by the way, many people who wear the yellow ribbon here are not hypocrites, and they're doing it for all the right reasons. I know you know that too. And for many of us, it's a way to stay connected and to keep mindfulness about this every single day. I feel it every Shabbos when I walk into this property to just see the faces and names, and I try to go slowly. Especially when I'm leaving and just look and I see your son every single Shabbat and every time I drop my kid off for school. And it's a powerful reminder for us. And I think you're saying, don't just be reminded of them, but use our voices to exert the pressure that we have. We might have more of an opportunity to influence our own administration to use its pressure than you do as not an American citizen. So thank you for that incredible story and reminder. I know that the message that you're sharing is very contrary to a lot of the messages that we hear not at IKAR, but in the kind of mainstream established Jewish community, because I think there has grown a sense that to show solidarity with the hostages means to support the Israeli government. That to support Israel means to support the Israeli government. That's a message that's particularly heard when the Israeli government is a right-wing government. When there's a left-wing government, that message is muted. But that is certainly what's normative here. And you're saying something very different. You're saying if you want to support Israel and if you want to support the hostages, you actually need to oppose this government and you need to put pressure on them, which American Jews were trained for decades that we don't want to have anyone put pressure on Israel, that Israel should make the decisions that's right for Israeli citizens. But now the Israeli government's making decisions, from your perspective and mine, that actually are endangering more Israeli citizens, let alone the Palestinians in Gaza, who are many of whom are starving, and actually many of whom last week got shot at humanitarian aid sites. And so we are saying that the Israeli government is making decisions that's actually endangering the future of the state of Israel and many of the Israeli people. That's a rewiring for us. That's training American Jews to use a different language than we have. If you want to support Israel, then you must speak out on behalf of the hostages and speak out for an end to war and for the release of the hostages now. So I appreciate your message, and I will tell you that we are working to amplify that call here. That's something that we take very seriously as a diaspora community.
I will add a few words just to say it from my perspective. We're talking about public opinion, okay? Democratic countries, okay, they have an elected government, but they have public opinion. Netanyahu's government is not listening to public opinion. Now you can say, oh, it's only polls, it's what you think, etc. I will give one example. If you remember, at the end of August 24, 6 hostages were executed because the army was maneuvering in that area. After that, riots in Israel rose up to about 750,000 people same night out on the streets. Now remember, Israeli population is about 9 million. So I'm talking about 10%, but 10% active. Put off children, elders, people who with families, people who are more or less active. So vast amount of Israelis were out in the street protesting. Now the response of Netanyahu was, as you remember, the German Bild with an article with the documents, original documents that were given to them by a worker in the Prime Minister office, actually leaking confidential documents, endangering hostages, endangering soldiers. It was done during a war. And referring it to Yahya Sinwar, then the leader of Hamas in Gaza, saying that Hamas has a plan to smuggle hostages underneath the Philadelphia corridor and then Egypt and Iran. Any withdrawal from the Philadelphia corridor is a danger to hostages. So first of all, it's a lie. Second, it was a document written by a mid-rank official in Hamas, suggestion thrown all around. Third, it was done in September, more than a year, nearly a year after the Hamas attack. That means Hamas had nearly a year to smuggle hostages underneath the Philadelphia corridor and didn't do that. Why would he do it now when the Israeli army is controlling that area? So that was a lie. It was a double lie, the fact that Hamas has that plan, and the fact that it was written by Sinwar, which was not, and the fact that Netanyahu was willing to endanger hostages, endanger soldiers, just to try and work on the narrative. Meaning that Netanyahu, regardless the public want, I'm not even talking about responsibility, but regarding the public want, was doing everything he could to divert, to frighten, to split, so he will put down riots and keep his war going on. And you have to remember, after that, if it wasn't enough to echo his demand not to withdraw from the Philadelphia corridor and echoing it from through foreign media, foreign newspaper, German Bild, he had his wife, the Mrs. Netanyahu, talking to families of hostages. I wasn't there, but other families were, trying to echo back what the newspaper said. Did you read about what the German Bild wrote, that Hamas is planning, etc., etc.? Everything works to divert, to frighten, so Netanyahu can keep on ruling. So again, talking about public opinion, the public opinion in Israel, most of the Israeli citizens want to end the war and get a hostage deal. In other words, most of the Israelis want re-election. Okay, There is a question, there is a controversy. Okay, let's put it back for asking the public. Netanyahu will do everything to avoid re-election because he knows he's going to lose there. So forget about democracy, forget about, I'm not even talking about all the background of the judgmental system he was working on breaking. We can argue about that. But forget about that. Forget about all this background. Netanyahu is working against the democracy in Israel. And if you're talking about you have an election government, that's what you have, this is your representative, well, let's be realistic. First, listen to the people. And this is the problem with the public opinion. And this is going back to the main subject. There is the difference, a total difference between the Israeli state and Netanyahu's government. Okay, I'm saying Bernie Sanders' words. Okay, I was there at the Senate gallery when he put out this bill to condition arms to Israel with aid. Okay, and he was saying this: I am an Israeli. I'm Jewish. I'm pro-Israel. I spent my youth in a kibbutz, etc., etc. And he was always talking about the need of the Israeli nation versus Netanyahu's government. So yeah, we're trying to work this narrative. What's good for Israel is not what's good for the government, and vice versa. We need your help as Israeli citizens, as the Israeli nation. We need you to criticize Netanyahu's government.
Thank you for saying that, Yehuda. We have less than 10 minutes. I want to ask if anybody here has a question, something that is on your heart that we can ask Yehuda. Louis? And also, Louis, will you introduce yourself? As well?
Hi. I'm Louis Abramson. I'm on our Minyan Tzedek, our social justice committee here. And I'm curious about what you said about, influencing our own administration here. Who in the Trump administration is aligned with the agenda of de-escalation and ending the war? How would one go about engaging with the current administration here to help you? Because it seems, I think we all think, difficult from where we sit to see that connection.
Okay, I'm the last to say, but we know that Trump administration is a one-man administration. Of course, he's got his special envoys for the Middle East, for hostages, Adam Boehler, Steve Witkoff, who are working to get a hostage deal. I talked to them in person, not one by one, but with a group of other hostage families in Tel Aviv. And they say they are committed. But again, the one that can force things is Donald Trump. We know that. We heard about the partial deal, the Witkoff deal, to release 10 living hostages, 18 deceased, etc., 60 days, and again, negotiate again, etc., etc. Now, as you know, the only one who accepts this deal is Netanyahu. Netanyahu only wants a partial deal. Everyone wants a full deal. Everyone wants to end the war and get a full deal. The Israeli public, the European, the negotiators, even Hamas. I would be the last to defend Hamas, of course, but remember, my son is in their hands. I want to make sure he'll stay alive, and I want to make sure he'll be released. Netanyahu's government are the only one who are against a full deal. Why? The reason is political, the reason is personal. I said it before. So again, the only person who can help us, it sounds strange, but that's reality, is President Donald Trump. That's the situation. And we're trying to reach him from every angle by thanking him, by cheering him, and even going to his ego, meaning that, hey, Mr. Trump, remember Netanyahu on your previous administration, where he ruined your deal of the century, where he was not satisfied with your Abraham Accords, he wanted more. Now I'm sitting here, okay, give me more, give me more. And even you can go even lower. Netanyahu was one of the first to congratulate President Biden on his election in 2020. Okay? Go on his ego. Remember, this is Netanyahu. He's using you, he's deceiving you, he's lying to you. And he will keep on doing that. Don't believe him. We want to see Donald Trump doing to Netanyahu what he did to Zelensky.
Oh, wow.
Out public. Go down on him. I have to be honest, I see Netanyahu as my enemy. Okay? Netanyahu is holding my son hostage. Netanyahu is holding my son, who went and served in the Israeli army, posted against the Gazian border with a dismantled tank. The tank was dismantled. The tank was crawling 8 kilometers an hour. It's about, 5-6 miles an hour. It's a speed of walking, which made it easier to Hamas to stick a bomb in the engine area and blast the tank. They were busy trying to operate the tank instead of fighting. So they did their job. They couldn't do the job. They were posted there. They tried to do the job, and they failed because they got bad equipment and got kidnapped. Some of them were killed. 3 of the teammates were killed. Nimrod was luckily, that's the situation, luckily taken alive, struggling now 20 months. So the government, as a government who works for the interests of its country, not for the interests of themselves, for its country, must, by the way, by law, secure and release those people, citizens, soldiers, etc. And Netanyahu is not doing that. So I see Netanyahu as my enemy. That's why any outside force from Trump, from the right side, through the ICC from the left side, and even met in January Karim Khan to use his warrants to force Netanyahu to go for a ceasefire, which will get us to a hostage deal. Anything works.
Okay, we have time for one more question, and it's going to be Janet Halbert over here.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. So many of us here were out on the street protesting the judicial reforms 2 years ago, and so many of us have been protesting to rescue the hostages as well. My friends Judy Weinstein Haggai and Gadi Haggai's bodies were just returned this week. We're a pretty progressive group here, and I'm wondering if have been invited to speak at some of the other synagogues in Los Angeles and to other organizations who are closer to the Trump administration, who might be interested in your perspective, because it's not really the perspective that they hear very often. So I hope that you can share that with us.
Yes, so first of all, I'm here with my older son, Yotam. He's in another synagogue, Hadass, I think the name is. Somewhere, another area in Los Angeles, a more right-wing synagogue. So the answer is we're trying to talk to everybody. I even was in Florida in December talking to more Republican communities. Of course, the narrative is different. I won't go talking about Netanyahu's corruption because they wouldn't care much about that. But there is, what I said about Trump, thanking him, cheering him, and even going down to the ego, saying Netanyahu is lying to you, deceiving you, cheating you, using you, etc. We're talking to everybody who can listen to us, everybody who wants to hear us. And I must say, now we are. I'm answering questions here. Questions are very convenient. I would have preferred more controversial question, like I was asked, but Hamas doesn't want a deal, or do you think Hamas will go through the deal? And questions like that, hinting, oh, you can't trust them. So I'm ready for those questions too, and I got my answers ready for that.
Can we trust Hamas in a deal? Hamas doesn't want a deal, right?
Well, the answer is simple. We had till now 2 deals. We had the November deal, and we had the one in January. Now, in the November deal, 8 living hostages a day for a price of 3 minor or women prisoners, Palestinian prisoners. On the 9th day, Israel didn't accept the list. Hamas gave a list which was not only women, it had elders, and Israel was blaming Hamas. Hamas are playing with the list, and okay, let's go back to war. By the way, the women on those lists, 2 of them, Carmel Gat and Eden Yerushalmi, were assassinated after that. The elders in that list, I don't remember the name right now, but some of them were killed after that. They never returned alive. Okay, so Hamas went through the deal. The reason he put elders instead of women, because he didn't have all the women available. If you remember, Shiri Bibas and her 2 babies, They didn't have them. And Netanyahu was anxious to go back to war instead of having 8 living hostages released today. Now, going forward to January 25, the first deal, 33 hostages plus 5 Thai hostages. Hamas stood by the deal by the letter and even released hostages earlier than was decided. Okay? All the 38 hostages were released until the written date. Netanyahu breached the agreement, didn't send a negotiation party on the 16th day with a mandate to negotiate the second part of the deal. Netanyahu didn't order the army to withdraw from the Philadelphia corridor on the 50th day. Netanyahu refused to talk about the second part of the deal. So can we trust Hamas? And I'm saying again, Hamas is not a Zionist organization. Hamas is our enemy. Hamas doesn't owe us anything. But the Israeli government, Netanyahu government, own us. It's the only establishment in the world that own us. And Netanyahu is breaching deals. Netanyahu is rushing to go back to war, just to go back to war on the life and the suffrage of the hostages. That's the answer to that.
Wow. Okay. You have given us a lot to lose sleep over. Thank you for that. It's really important for us to hear you. I know this is hard. It's really hard to take in. And it's critical that we hear your voice. And I also know, having just come back, I was in Kikar Chatufim on every Saturday night for the last year plus. There have been huge protests where people are saying exactly what you're saying. You are one of the most vocal people who I see in videos and hear your speeches, but your voice is, I think, fairly representative of what many of the most of the hostage families are saying. And also, as you said, what the overwhelming majority of Israeli citizens are saying. And I just want to point out that having 750,000 Israelis on the street to protest against the government, to call for an end to war, to call for the immediate release of the hostages is the equivalent of having almost 40 million Americans protest in the street. And they haven't done it once. They're doing it week after week after week. There is a consistent response saying this is not the will of the people. And so I really appreciate you coming all the way over here to the US and bridging the gap between the normative understanding of what's good for Israel over here and what Israelis, and especially families of hostages, are saying. I really bless you that you get your son home in your arms, and your wife and your other son's arms, that you can hold him, embrace him, get him home safely, and help him heal and recover, that all of the hostages come home, that there's an end to this catastrophic war with all of the loss for Palestinians, for Israelis alike, and that we can collectively move toward a different kind of future when everybody who lives in that region can have a future of thriving and a future of peace. So thank you so much for being here with us. We are so grateful.
That's the last sentence. I will keep coming back again to fight for my son. Yeah, to fight for peace. Yeah, exactly that. I hope the sooner, the better, I will come here again to thank you after my son will be released. Amen. Thank you very much.